I'm still left with a lot of questions, and most of them start with why? Hey guys, welcome back to the read-along of The Cyborg Tinkerer by Meg LaTorre. I'm Kat, welcome back to the channel by the way. And I made it through more than 2 chapters this time. I know wonders never cease, and we actually get a few answers and a lot more questions. So in chapter 9 we follow Aurora through the first bit of the competition, through the obstacle course. She just jumped into the icy water that she already told us last chapter could be horrendous for a cyborg, but her own implant seems to be holding up. She swims under a bit of the wall, comes out in the middle and is faced with 3 dead cyborgs. Which does beg the question, if the mistress wants to recover all of the implants of the losers of this competition, then why would you dunk them in ice water and damage those things? Doesn't seem very logical to me. Also, for the competition as a whole, it doesn't make much sense to me. They have parts of the competition that check your agility and your strength or whatever. But if this is just about finding the best acts for a circus, then those make no sense whatsoever, because why would your magician or your clown or your Beastmaster or whatever, why would they be as agile as an acrobat or as strong as somebody who lifts stuff? Or, you know, it doesn't make much sense. So I'm just gonna go with they are trying to do something very different here. It's not about a circus at all. But we'll see. We'll find out later. But first and foremost in this chapter I have to wonder about how precious these resources can really be if they just get dumped in ice water and the cyborgs died. I mean, if the stuff short circuits and they sustain burns that leave them with blackened flesh, then I doubt the mechanical parts are faring all that well either, so seems like a bit of a waste. Aurora contemplates how much she liked what was growing between her and Gwen, even though it was a lie. And out of nowhere she hits you with, "We are all liars at Cirque du Borg." I'm like, as far as we know you haven't lied about anything yet, so is this foreshadowing or are you just being dramatic? Is there more to come? I don't know yet. But while Aurora is the mistress of simple plans, to put it mildly, she shows some decency. She can choose certain paths in this competition, and she can go the easy way or she can go the more difficult way and help another cyborg who's stuck, and she chooses the hard way because she won't let another person die if she can help it. Which does endear her to me quite a bit. Well, certainly more than Gwen, but you know, being more likable than Gwen is not much of a challenge. Turns out the cyborg she saved was one of Abercon's, I might be mispronouncing his name, but the douchebag's buddies. But he returns the favor when he gets a chance to help Aurora a little later on, and it's nice to see that not all of the assholes' friends are douchebags as well, so that's nice. Aurora struggles along through the obstacle course, which seems to be built for acrobats really, with like swinging along rings and climbing stuff, and yeah, I would argue that your average magician is in a bit of a trouble there. Of course, the guy she meets at the end who is competing for the top spot with her is Abercon, the homophobic douchebag. And he taunts her about like, "Oh yeah, I saw this other cyborg who Aurora saw was dead earlier." It's like, "Oh, I saw her tumble off the wall." And I'm a bit confused. He was the first one up the rope over the first wall. Did he then swim in slow motion, or did he stay behind to watch her fall? Because if this was a race, then why would he stand around and wait for this other cyborg to go past him? Would have thought that Abercon was already gone from that spot by the time the other cyborg got into the water and then died in the middle of it. But for some reason, the way he taunts Aurora makes Aurora think that he might have killed that other cyborg, and I mean, at absolute best, he would have pushed her off the wall and then, I mean, she would have jumped into the water too, so she would have died either way. If not in this obstacle course, then probably from whatever the mistress had in store for her, so... Now, there's no reason for me to assume that he actually killed her in this instance. But Rora and Abercan have to climb up another wall, without rope this time, just feet on one side, back on the other, or, you know, 1 foot on each side, depending on how tall you are, I guess. So they have to climb further. And Rora is trying her best to get there first, because she really wants one of those top spots, not just because she's worried about losing her implant, but also because she really wants to go see the Emperor. She's still dreaming of his patronage, for whatever reason. I couldn't tell you. But when she gets to the top, you get this bit. When she threw a hand over the edge, her fingers landed on a platform. Gripping it, she pulled herself up as another body tumbled beside her. Like, the picture I get from this phrasing is like she pulls herself up and another person just falls down beside her. It's like, literally, you come up here, the body falls whoosh, past you. But no, what she actually meant is that the other guy was pulling himself up onto the platform just a tiny bit ahead of Rora. So that is definitely the wrong word here. And she's very upset that she only came in second, and I'm a bit confused. I don't think she needed to be in first place to move on anyway. I mean, they still need 10 acts in the end, so... I don't know. I mean, sure, winning would have been better, but was it necessary? I don't think it was. Anyway, on that happy note of 3 dead cyborgs and a homophobic douchebag winning, this is how Rora's chapter ends. Chapter 10 goes back to Gwen, who is pacing in front of the door waiting for the performers to come back. And Bastian is with her. And I think all he does is like click his shoes together, and she spins around and tells him to piss off. And I'm like, again, very mature. This guy has, at least in the last chapter you got of Gwen, it seemed like he was trying to help. So maybe he's one of the people you don't want to annoy in this circus. And also he's still your boss, so regardless of situation, it's probably not a good idea to talk to him this way. Yes, and apparently last time we saw the mistress, she took her whole show management team with her again, and I still don't know how many people we're talking about here. This seems like a mysterious grey blob that just follows the mistress around to me for the moment, because I don't know how many they are, I don't know what they do. We just know that the mistress has a team of some sort with her. I mean, given that none of them is named and we don't learn anything about them, they're probably not all that important, but why are they there then? Gwen and Bastian argue a bit about why he warned her in the first place, and I have to agree. Why warn her? Because she's not part of the competition, and warning her made no difference to her whatsoever. Yeah, but Gwen is reasonably angry that he didn't warn any of the performers, which I guess makes sense. Rora and Abercan come back out of the competition, and Gwen is relieved to see Rora in one piece. And now we learn that the ship apparently has a healer on board as well. So not a surgeon, not a doctor, but a healer. So that sounds more like medieval or fantasy realm to me rather than sci-fi, steampunk, but... Well, apparently they have a healer on board who will now take care of Rora after she grew up into a potted plant. And Gwen gets escorted away to deal with her actual task for the evening. And as a side note, we also get informed that there's some lottery system at work as well. Apparently Rora and Abercan did so well in this one competition that their names won't be entered into the lottery system. I don't know what the system entails yet, because we only hear about it in like 2 lines, and then we move on because Gwen has to go and be a tinkerer / butcher. So Gwen gets to see her workplace with tools for extraction and surgical tools all over, and describes it like this. Shaking her head, she backed away from the table. Her pulse thumped like an executioner's axe against a stump. But that would be a single thought. If we're talking about her heartbeat or her pulse, then it should be a repeated noise, not like a single thud and then it's over. It's like, did you just die looking at the tools? Or I don't know, it just struck me as odd. But Gwen is obviously resisting because she doesn't want to do this. She doesn't want to extract anything from anybody. And as usual, when the first person gets strapped down, she gets informed that there's no anesthesia because, I don't know, I guess the age of anesthesia is past. We have space travel, we need no pain medication or anything else anymore, so... Plus it would be a waste of resources if you listen to the mistress. Which then begs the question, why throw cyborgs whose parts get damaged when you dunk them in ice water into ice water in the first place? So Gwen lets you know once more that she is really not designed or trained to be a cyborg tinkerer yet, or at all. Possibly yet. If she had enough time, then I think she would actually do okay, given her engineering background. But so far she doesn't know enough to do anything yet, so she tells you, Bastian, the mistress, and the show management team knew Gwen wasn't qualified to safely extract cyborg implants. Why let her do it then? If you want these parts back and you want them functional, why let somebody who doesn't know what they are doing deal with it? And here, this chapter answers one of my biggest questions. Who the hell did the surgery on Gwen? It was the mistress. She is a surgeon and a scientist and tells Gwen that she considers herself a far better tinkerer than Gwen. Why is Gwen there then? If you have somebody, like if the boss herself is better at this than Gwen, why do you bother bringing in somebody who is not trained or not qualified to do this? Yeah, she makes it clear to Gwen that if she resists again, there will be consequences, and the last one would be the mistress removing the implant and eye again that she put into Gwen. Actually, just before that, we learn that the actual implants that go into the cyborg's brain cannot be returned. Once they're installed, they're permanent. But all the other mechanical bits will be extracted when one of the performers has to leave the circus. Yeah, we learn a couple more things about the world that throw me a bit, to be honest. So Gwen thinks back on one of the previous ships she has traveled on. And apparently whenever people got hurt, the ship's engineer was the first person they would go to for first aid. Okay, there's really nobody better. Like, this is like, oh, I just dropped something on my foot, looks broken, let me go and talk to my mechanic. Like, what? Yeah, so we get a lengthy surgery scene where Gwen is extracting a cyborg arm and does her best to tell people what to get her, like alcohol, cloth, a candle for searing a wound shut. Yeah, she's doing her best to keep this woman alive, but she does so with some questionable surgery skills, I would say. So she's using the knife that she used to cut open the arm. She's heating it on a candle flame, like a small candle flame, and is then trying to sear that wound shut. If we're talking about a proper stump of an arm here that is actively bleeding, then that little knife and candle flame are neither hot enough nor fast enough to actually close this wound before this person bleeds out. That just wouldn't work. She's still waiting on needle and thread, but yeah, I'm not convinced they could possibly get there in time. But by some miracle, this cyborg survives. Yeah, so Gwen goes through a couple more surgeries and then at the end tells you, but the performers had all left alive. So long as they didn't get an infection, most of them should survive. Yeah, I think the odds of not getting an infection when all you have to disinfect stuff is alcohol and you... It didn't sound like she was disinfecting any of her tools in between. And again, if you only have a candle flame and a little knife to close up any wounds, then I'm pretty sure somebody will have an infection after this. So They might look alive when they leave your table, but they probably won't be for long. So Gwen ruined the wonderful dress she got from Rora and tells you that she hates Bastian for his role in all of this, although she can't quite discern how much of it's just following orders and how much of a stake he really has in the whole thing. Now we get to the bit that really confused me about Gwen. She'd always found something to fight for, whether it was a new life or for her family. Now she had to protect her new family, her cyborg family. So some chapters ago, she didn't seem to give a shit about her family. She was fine never seeing them again. She didn't mention them all that much, at least not in a fashion that made you think that she was missing any of them. And now she's been in the circus for a couple of weeks, mostly recovering from her own surgery. And the last time we were in her head, she was contemplating whether she even wanted to be close to anybody. And now all of these people are suddenly her cyborg family. That seems like a really weird flip. I get the part that she's revolted by the competition and she doesn't want to take part in the butchery that follows. That makes perfect sense. That's just like, you know, a decent reaction to the whole thing. But it seems like an odd sentiment for Gwen to suddenly go, oh my god, all of these people are my family, I need to protect them. Strange. I meant to cover 4 chapters in this video, but it was just getting too long. 40 minutes is a bit over the top, so you get to look at the picture of Cleo doing a little Superman pose. Well, I say thanks for watching. Leave a like, subscribe if you want to help the channel out, and tell me in the comments whether you read the book and what you make of it. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll be back next week with another video. Bye guys!